Bam, and we are back. So this is my first of many book review videos, um, and the goal is obviously one a week. This one I did actually read the first week of January, but because of the content in it, it did take me a little bit longer than usual to digest it and actually get my thoughts. It is philosophy related. But the book is The Stranger by Albert Camus. I don't know. I think it's French, so I doubt I'm pronouncing the last name right. But it is a narrative fiction book, uh, and from my understanding, it is supposed to, I guess, depict a form of absurdism from the viewpoint of the main character. But long story short, in this book, there's a guy, Merceau. I'm probably again pronouncing his name wrong, but basically it follows him. In the beginning of the book, his mother dies, and in the beginning of the book, it pretty much is him, going to the funeral and then meeting like the people she was with in the you know old folks home. Um, but basically it's centered around this character and really uh, is it shows how he sees or goes about his day-to-day life. So for instance, at the funeral, what was really bothering people or kind of off-putting for lack of better words is that he didn't really react. He didn't cry, you know because of whatever reason he was tired, so he was even caught sleeping. And this plays a factor later on in the story. But basically, it was just like well, she's dead. And from his perspective, obviously, his internal dialogue, you can tell that he does, to a certain degree, he's upset that it happened, but it's like people die is basically how his actions showed. And because of the outward appearance from others' point of view, it was like he really didn't care. Fast forward a little bit, he met his neighbor, and the guy is a thug still currently. Like, as all things considered, he's a criminal. Dude was like, "Yo, be my friend." Marceau was like, "Cool," because he didn't really see a downside. He didn't really care. He was even aware that this guy actually beat his ex girlfriend because he cheated on her. I mean, like he beat the dog shit out of her. But Marceau was like, "Yeah, whatever. I mean, you want to be friends? Let's be friends." Um, same way with how he interacts with women, which was pretty funny. He was talking to this one chick. I mean, he was vibing with her. Don't get me wrong, but um, she actually asked him to get married, and he was like, "Well, do you want to get married?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, well, let's get married." And then she was like, "Well, if you don't want to get married, then we don't have to." And he's like, "If that's what you want to do, we can do it. It doesn't really bother me none." So basically, the way he approaches life is like, it is what it is. It's a basically he is the definition of it is what it is. He doesn't put too much weight on anything, and he just moves on with it. If he wants to do it, he does it. If he doesn't, he don't. Um, Turning point in the story is when him, the thug, and his girlfriend, they go to the beach for like a weekend or a week vacation with some other guy, and his lady that are already living out there basically. And the thug has beef with some Arabs. Not really important to the story. But anyways, the thug and the guy they meet at the beach scraps the Arabs. Luckily, everybody goes their separate ways. But the main character, Marceau, he took a gun from the thug because the thug was about to shoot one of the Arabs. So to prevent that, he took the gun. But when everybody went back to the house, he was like, "I really don't want to be bothered explaining this stuff to the ladies at the house." So instead of going in with the other guys, he just ends up going for a walk. It's hot out, so he's looking for some shade and he finds it. But under that shade, one of the Arabs is there. And obviously they clock each other. So him having the personality he does, he's like, "I ain't scrap you. I don't have beef with you, so we should be good." But that's not the case. Anyways, he's still walking in the direction of the Arab. They get closer. Dude gets up, pulls a knife. They get into an altercation, and Merceau shoots the guy once, pauses, and shoots him a couple more times. So again, this is the turning point. Obviously, he gets arrested, and it's not until he is locked up and he has got nothing else to do, that he looks back on those quote unquote mundane days, those monotonous days, and sees them for what they're worth. He talks about how he relived one day so many times, like every time it went more in depth, like from the furniture in the room to the stuff that was on the dressers to the details to the vase that was on the dresser. Like he really saw each and every day for what it was, which he never done before, and I found that fascinating. Because that's like most people, we go through the day to day life. We wake up, go to work. If you got kids, you take care of your kids, lunch, XYZ, gym, come back, sleep, do it all over again every day. And every now and then we have those events that, changes things up. But for the most part, majority of life is the day to day, mundane, monotonous. And we do not see the finer details of those days that actually make them stand out for what they were. And he didn't do that either until he had his freedom taken away, and I found that fascinating because that's what we all do. We don't really see the value of things until it's taken away from us. Um, and for him, it was his freedom. He could no longer enjoy time with his friends. He could no longer enjoy time with the lady he was with, which he looked forward to seeing her or at least getting letters from her until they all stopped and he could only see her at the time of like trial hearings and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, others' perspectives of him and his attitude really came into play during his trial because to everyone else, he didn't show any outward emotions. He didn't care about anything, at least from their point of view. So when they were calling witnesses, like, the retirement home director and the nurses that took care of his mom and people that, was with his mom, they was like, well, yeah, he kind of had like a nonchalant attitude. He didn't really show any emotions, because they were trying to figure out, why a guy like this, not only shot once, but then paused and emptied the clip on the Arab dude, after the fact. And for the first time, he saw how others saw him. Um, and it kind of like all hit him at once, like the emotional weight of it all, because like I mentioned, before he had his freedom, he didn't really think about anything beyond the immediate situation. Everything is what it was attitude. And now that he's seen how other people saw him, he had his freedom taken away. He can't really do anything but sit here and try to defend himself, which he can't even really do properly because how do you explain to other people that don't see things the way you do that you didn't cry at your mother's funeral or the passing of a family member, that you're friends with a guy that beat a woman and you could hear it and you're still friends with him, that you put yourself in these situations. Like, how do you explain that for you, you didn't see it that way? That's not how it was. You can't. They're not living your life. Um, and the reason it took me so long to kind of reflect on this book is because to a certain degree, I do have a very similar attitude to the main character. Like, when it comes to problems, like if it's a problem and I can solve it, cool. If I can't, it is what it is. I'm just gonna not really look the other way. I'm just gonna move on to something else that I can do. Um, if I see something and it's something that bothers me, again, if I can't fix it, cool. I'm just gonna move on. If I can, I'll fix it and get it done out of the way. Um, and I've been told many times by my mom and friends and family alike that my attitude is very nonchalant, and it seems like a lot doesn't affect me, but in actuality, there are many things that do affect me mentally and emotionally. That I just, again, if I can't fix it or solve it, I just ignore it, throw it away and move on. So, um, and it has allowed me to, since I've read it, slow down a little bit and try to take the days for what they are, especially when, day in and day out, I do drive Uber. So it can get very monotonous, pick someone up, drop them off. So I try to enjoy the conversations with the few riders that, can hold a conversation, because it makes the days go by a little bit better, as far as that is concerned. So, um, yeah, really, it just kind of made me think that, be a little bit more aware of what goes on in the day to day, especially the monotonous days, because even those days do have something to value in them, even if it might not seem like it. And you really won't know what you have access to, whether it be your freedom, the people in your life, until they're gone. So value that. But yeah, that's my takeaway from The Stranger. Definitely recommend giving it a read. Um, Honestly, for those who do read consistently, it'll only